But the language is also super important for school, for staff to be able to connect and collaborate. And as learners ourselves, as we are flexing these dispositions and competencies, as we inquire into our inquirers, as we learn from our learners, it's so important that we're using the same language that we are coaching and modeling in our classroom with students. So, if I were to sit down with Graham and talk shop about competency development and what it means to be a learner in our settings, that common language is really helpful for us to plan next steps, learn together, but then go and implement with our students. So that common language, Becky, is important for our kiddos. It's also really important for us as we frame what a culture of learning looks like and sounds like and feels like.
Do you know what you're just making me think of off the cuff? Do you have any favourite bits of Learnish? You know how Guy refers to it as kind of Learnish. Do you have any favourite bits or any that are particularly useful to you at the moment?
Oh goodness. Let me think. Well, we do a lot of talk about feelings, and I know that sounds really airy fairy, but typical right now in my practice this particular year, my students have really gotten used to me asking, "How are you feeling?" And that again, that sounds really airy fairy, but their feelings really matter. We talk a lot about wellness, we talk a lot about self-regulation and SEL, but I really use their feelings to guide our next steps and inform my next steps. So every Friday I ask my students, how were you feeling as a learner this week? What feelings arose for you? And the feelings I'm aiming for, and I do intentionally plan lessons and learning around and experiences around. I want these feelings to bubble up amongst my students. I'm aiming for calm. I want my students to feel calm in learning. I'm aiming for confident. I want them to feel, that they can do it. I'm aiming for a sense of belonging and a sense of ownership. As an inquiry practitioner, those values, those feelings matter to me. And so those are the things I'm hoping they say, as they leave Friday's class and they walk by me and they say, "Mr. McKenzie, T-Mac," as they call me, "T-Mac, I'm hoping the words that they share are the words that I was aiming for, that I was trying to cultivate throughout our time together." If they give me something else, if they give me, "I was feeling stressed this week, I was feeling overwhelmed, I was feeling disconnected or disengaged," that's a point of inquiry for me. I question that. I try to put myself in their shoes. Maybe I ask more questions of them, but I definitely do something with that. I pivot. And so, you mentioned Learnish, some of, what would be some jargon you would hear me using in my classroom. Currently this year, I'm talking a lot about feelings and having student feelings guide our next steps. I want them to feel pushed. I want them to, to stretch into their learning, but I certainly don't want them to feel anxious or overwhelmed or disengaged. Anytime I see disengagement, I lean into that and I question, where is the relevance and authenticity for those students and how can I make things more equitable for them? So I suppose, Becky, that's something you would hear as some of my jargon. I don't know if that's other people's jargon, but that's definitely Mr. McKenzie jargon this year.